Hello, everybody. How are you? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. Welcome, all of you, to our day related to the root chakra in the physical week of the month Aquarius. Today, our topic is the planet Mars. So let's go into this because I have the feeling that there's so much to speak about it, even if I want to speak a lot. So I think that. So just if I forget something, I invite you all to see the the post of today in the blog, yosoy.red. Just to tell you, really enjoy a lot writing this post today because I discovered so many things that I had no idea about Mars, and also was really like I discovered many things about the meaning of this planet that I didn't expect it to. So, as always, we will start with the etymology of the name of this planet, trying to understand why was so important for the people in the past, what it meant for them, in order to name a planet with this name. Here I am with my amazing solar system. Just before we start, I just wanted to mention something to all of you that I have been thinking these days, but acknowledging these days, but that the process of Mars today, even if it is much more about anger and so on, makes me understand, maybe understood. Before we start, I want to say to say this, that sometimes speaking about the anger of this planet of Mars, I must be sincere with all of you that sometimes I feel like these teachers that I experienced in my classrooms when I was younger, these teachers that I can understand those teachers that sometimes they are really tired when they listen someone asking a question that is out of the topic that the teacher is saying, or people that are talking and bothering the rest in the class, and these ones of those teachers that says shut up and they want to throw this on the face of the children. Moments I have them, and I have to admit that, to be sincere, saying that it happens many times, even if you don't not. It happens many times, and I relate this with with my, of course, with my own things that I didn't work in myself. But as I see sometimes, like those teachers in class, that they lose their patience when they are teaching and so on. It happens to me too, of course, many times. But today, talking about Mars and all of these things, I just realized really important for me that since I was 6 years old, I always was imagining myself giving classes, teaching in a school to kids, to teenagers. I always loved to be a teacher, to be with board and explaining things and so on. And even if I don't see your faces now, we are not in a class, I must admit that I am really thankful to all of you because um, I am doing that what I wished all my life, which was teaching, which was explaining things to people. So I really appreciate that you are here every day, listening to what I have to say, because I really love teaching, and well, it's because of you that I'm doing this every day. So thank you. So of course that what bothers me in the class with the students is something that I have to analyze why it affects me. But as a teacher, I had to say sometimes respect your partners, and that's it. Okay. And with this, I'm not saying that I'm that the bothering me. No, it's not bothering. It's even it's funny. Okay, so I'm not bothered by that. I'm just saying about this other things that kind of disconcert me. But that's it. Mars. So Mars is the name of a god, but the name comes from the Etruscan language in Italy, and was Maris. And Maris comes from, in some way, comes from Moris, which is to live in a place, a morade. It's live in a place. Okay. Now let's go into the origin of humanity to understand why the god of war is named to live in one place. This began when the humans were nomads. This means that they were traveling all around the territory, and they were eating things and grabbing things, and then they left. So they were leaving every place, and they were just eating, drinking, and taking what they needed, and they just go away. Okay, so nothing really belonged to them because they were just taking what they needed. But there was a moment when they discovered agriculture, that they started to use the land for their own purposes all the time. This land belongs to me now. This land is something that is for my own. I built a house, I live here now, so the house is mine. The land is mine. The production is mine. So they started to settle. That's the settlerism. When they become sedentary, they settle down in one place, and they sat on that land. They took power on that land. So when you took power on a place where you are seated, where you are settled, that's what we call possession. Possession comes from the Latin word potis, that means power, and sedere, that means to seat, to settle. So when you settle in a place where you put your power, where you take power of the place where you are settled, that's possession. So they started to understand the concept of possession, to have things. Remember that when we spoke in the other days for other planets, we described that every god was basically a concept of something. So they took all ideas together, and they created a concept that holds all the ideas. So in this case, the agricultures, the people that has the land that was growing the plants, had its own spirit that hold all of them, okay, the agricultures, and that was the god of agriculture. The god of agriculture was the one taking care of the lands, was the one helping for the plants to grow so the people could have things, could survive, could eat. It was Maris for the Italian people. Maris is the Maris is the god, the idea that hold on it all the agriculture people, the sedentary people that were producing food. Hmm? When you are in one place, you are settled in one only place. That's all the things that you have. So what they needed was to protect the only things that they had from other people that could come and invade them to take food, to take their lands. So what they did was to put all the agricultures together, and they created like a community, sorry, like a community that that they and they created like an army to protect those lands. So the same god of agriculture was the same god protecting the lands of agriculture. This is the way in which the same god of agriculture becomes also the god of protection. Remember that for the past, the gods were not saying that that were outside creating things. For the ancient ones, a god was kind of like a flag for a day. It was a symbol that unified many people that thought the same. Okay, so it's not about a being that was there like we believe today about a god. Hmm? So what they did, saying that this concept unified the spirit and the souls of many people, was that everyone that was honoring the same god, Maris, for example, like a flag, they all were working for the same thing, protecting the same thing. Okay? So remember then that the gods were not beings, were concepts that unified people. In the very beginning, there's no way to connect people like with flags, with nations, with these kind of things. Hmm? Um, so they needed to unify the spirit in one concept. Okay, so the gods were like the kind of symbolism that unified the people in that time. Hmm? So in that time, remember that the sedentary people that were settling in place, they needed to protect their things from the nomads people, because there were so many nomads around also traveling through the planet that they were, remember, the nomads were hunters and recollectors. So they just went through the lands and robbed everything that they could so they could eat, they could keep going. Okay? So because of this, they needed to protect themselves, okay, because of the nomads that were robbing, stealing things they went through. Hmm? So in that territory, they create a new culture, and this new culture, the Roman culture, they from the Etrurian people and made it into a new one. So Maris was called Martius, and Martius is how we get this name of today, Mars, Marte. Hmm? So Mars is the god of agriculture, is the god that protects fields. So the Romans, they created a civilization. So they started to grow. The population started to grow. So they needed more lands. Hmm? So they needed to conquer much more territory. Hmm? So they used this symbol of the agriculture god to conquer new lands. And that's how the god of agriculture turned into the god of war, the one that protected, the one that invaded the territory. So for the Romans, Mars was this protector, which is totally different from what the Greek people used to think about the god of war, which was Ares. Ares means disgrace. So it's very different. So the Greek people, they wouldn't think they wouldn't think that Ares is the best one to call if you have to go to a war. For the Romans, Mars was the protector of the empire. The Greek ones was a destroyer. So nobody wanted him because it was terrible. So they would rather ask to Athenia for guidance in a war than him, because he was a disgrace. Whoever called him, everyone would die, everyone would be killed. Terrible. Blood all around. So because of this god would be so terrible, all covered in blood, they call this star moving in the skies as Ares, because that planet was red. And it's not because it's the planet, but because they could see the red light. If you go out and you see the planet, you watch Mars, you will see that the light is red of that planet. It's not white like the other ones. So that's why they would think, so if that moving star is a god and it's red, for sure is Ares covered on the blood of the enemies. So for the Greek people, this planet was terrible, represented all the disgraces of a war. But that vision of chaos was from the Greek people. Because for the Romans, when they say Mars was not a terrible being representing just the war, Mars was representing the honor of the war, was representing the will, the strength, the one that protects, that is taking care of the lands, of the fields, of the agriculture of the countries, the one that helped the country to be prosperous. So these are the two different perspectives of the same planet. Mars is related with the strength of life, the ability to manifest the things, to have the will of action, the one that says, I can do this, this is my place, I can move forward. So for us, this planet is the one that represents the vital energy, is the Kundalini that pushes forward. The energy of Mars is representing the physical body and the manifestation, taking action. So what happens when this fire is unbalanced? That we start to have chaos, destruction, war, anger. When I am in balance, Mars represents action and will. Reaction. So if I am in balance, Mars will represent the action and will. But if I am unbalanced, it will represent reaction and violence. Okay, we can relate this to Mars and this to Aries. So usually our humanity is ruled by reaction and violence because we are unbalanced. And this means that we're not being able to take action by ourselves and to have the will to do the things by ourselves. So because we have been ruled by others through thousands of years, we have relayed our inner power to the action of others. We don't act unless others tells us what to do. And we don't have the will to do our stuff unless someone is telling us how to do it. So because we don't have that inner power, we put that power outside with power to others. And because of this, I am constantly waiting for something to happen outside in order to know what to do. And that's what we call expectation. Without power, we live from expectations. So what we do when we expect? We sit waiting for something to happen, giving the power to others. And this is what we call possession. To sit and wait for the power. Possession. So what is this process doing with us? That we believe that things gives us power. So this little person here with power says, in order to have more power, I need to invade, to have more things, and to control us. So that person will look for control as a way to establish its power. So in order to have control, I need to put myself over the others to control the power of others. And the way I do it is with violence. And when someone attacks my inner power to take over my power, what do I do to defend my power? I react. And this is what happens to all of us that makes us live in this wheel of violence, reaction, and we don't know how to go out from here. All because we were expected to have the power over us. All because instead of acting myself in order to accomplish my missions, my goals, instead of activating my will, I wait for others to do it for me. So that's I lose my inner power, waiting, expecting for having things to give my power. So Mars, remember, now we go here, Mars is not the one that says, go to war. Mars is that says, if you want something, you have to work for it. Sow, and you will harvest. Sow in your action, and you will harvest the will. And now to understand why we have to take this action, we have to go to the very basic topic we always have been about, which is survival. If we want to survive, we need to do something. And this is our biology, it's not psychologically. It's our biology. Our body was designed. Our body was designed to survive, to do stuff to survive. Okay. That's the goal of our body. So we need to act in order to survive. When we created a society, a civilization for the first time, I relay my power to someone to do it for me. So I lose my action and my will, expecting for someone to give me what I need, the possession. And now, suddenly, I think that this possession is mine. So I have control over this possession. And when someone comes and says, this is not yours, give it to me, comes the violence, which brings the reaction. What is the power? The power is the sensation of having the control of your own life. The sensation of having the control of your own life. When in reality, we are all going to die. You will die. And this is what happens when I say you will die. So when I say you will die, usually Phobos and Deimos. Phobos and Deimos are the two tiny satellites that has the planet of Mars. Phobos is the origin of the word phobia, which means fear. And Deimos means panic. So Phobos and Deimos, fear and panic, are the basis, the reactions that our body has when it faces death. Because when the body is dead, it says, I need to fight in order to live. I need to fight against hunger. I need to fight against death. I need to fight against insomnia. I need to fight against not being able to breathe. I have to fight in order to reproduce. Everything is a war, a fight in our lives because of the fear and the panic for this life to end. The fear of losing control of life. This begins in the physical body. It is transmitted to the emotional body and then translated in the mental body. So now you see this, that all the people that is willing to control the life of others, they do this because of the fear and the panic that produce the possibility of losing the control over only things that that person was able to get, to achieve. This means that the war, the fight, they don't exist by itself as a concept alone. They exist only because of fear and panic. It doesn't exist, the evil. It's the only reason why evil exists is because of fear and panic of not fine. the only way we can reach Mars is if we go through fear and panic. And if we leave the darkness of Eris behind, we don't fear the conflict, the war of Eris, the chaos, and we go through the fear and through the panic, and we will find Mars. And what is Mars? God of war is agriculture. Is the one that says patient, the one that says you have to wait, you have to understand the process, you have to sow the seeds. Is the one that gives you the inner power to say, I can. So, in order to be able to transcend fear and panic, we have to remember these two concepts: limits and illimited. If you say we are illimited beings, you are not here, you are limited. This is, doesn't matter what you do, you will find limits everywhere. Everywhere, everything has limitations. Limit. Where do we have conflicts in our lives? The conflicts in our lives, the wars, the invasions, comes from the people that think that they are illimited in a that is limited, that they don't respect the limits, so they go over the limits of others. The idea of being illimited, without any limits, in a body that is limited, makes you a being, an invasive being that goes over the others. So look at this. When an unlimited being says by awareness, mind is unlimited, I can do anything I want, it's saying that it's afraid of the biggest limit, which is death. I will die. So an unlimited being is afraid of death because it wants to go over the limits. So in the same way as a limited being, the unlimited being is trying to escape death. Take a deep breath. The limits were created by the mind, a limited mind, in order to be able to exist. In order to be able to exist. Essentially, the limits doesn't exist in the universe. But the limits were created by the limited mind in order to be able to experience itself. Otherwise, it cannot. Death, therefore, is a tool of the unlimited mind. And you may say, life doesn't exist. Death doesn't exist. Yes, doesn't exist. That's why the limited and the unlimited is called transformation. The limited one is attached to the things, because to life, because it thinks that is the only thing that it can get, that it has. And the unlimited attached to the idea because it thinks that is the only thing it has. Both of them, the one that is based on the forms and the one that is based on the ideas, are limited and attached by fear and panic of losing control of its shape and idea. The only way in which the limited and the unlimited can live in harmony through transformation if both leave behind the fear and the panic of losing control. Everything in the world is transformation. So I have to allow myself to transform. The body I am in will die, will transform in another body. And the idea that I have of this world will also change. So I have to let my ideas die too. Okay? So what's the key of Mars after all this explanation? What is the key of Mars? Mars is patience. Patience. Mars is will. Mars is will. Mars is transformation. And if I don't have patience, if I don't have will, and if I don't allow myself to transform, I become Aries. Information for today. The vibration for today is Do. The statement for today is I am the balance of the world. The code for today is past. The travel path, what was walked by the cosmos, the edges of geometry that are used to constitute the basic schemes of realities, are continuously shaping the concept that we know as past. It is the last time that originates in the universe, for it's at the same time the last one on being perceived in the extremities of space. Reason for what the sky that we see is the past from the cosmic borders is due to the speed of light. Thus, the past is made of all the experiential patterns. Let's go to the alignment. Sit comfortable. Close your eyes and concentrate your breathing. Softly, I start to massage, caress, stretch my body, and yawning, becoming aware of each part of it. Take a deep breath and become aware of the body you find yourself in, of the room, the house. Become aware of the village, the city, the country you are in, the continent, and the planet. I take a deep breath and start to become aware that I live within this body, that I am this body here and now. I take a deep breath and I expand myself, becoming also the room I find myself in. I take a deep breath and I expand, becoming the house or the building where I am. I take a deep breath, becoming the village or the town. I take a deep breath and expand, becoming the country where I am. I take a deep breath, becoming the continent. I take a deep breath, becoming the planet. Yo soy la tierra. I am the earth. And I see in front of me the light of the sun irradiating and sending on me its heat. I perceive the moon spinning around me. In front of me, Mercury and Venus, and behind, Mars. I contemplate the asteroids belt, and behind it, I see Jupiter and Saturn. Far away, Uranus and Neptune, and in the edges of our solar system, Pluto. I am the solar system. Take a deep breath. I extend my arms towards Mars, and I take it between my hands, bring it toward me, and putting it in my genitals, in the root chakra. You take a breath. I try to think now about my will and my violence. How do I live in my life? How do I live my life through violence? Take a deep breath and bring your attention to the will. Do you have will of acting, of taking care of your projects? Do you have a lack of will in your life? Try to think in which part of your being you use this will, or you have a lack of it in your physical body, in your emotional body, or your mental body. I become aware of the will in my life. Now pay attention to the violence in your life. Think about how you live the violence. It is from the outer world that you are affected by this violence, or is yourself who create violence? Do you live this aggression in the physical, the emotional, or the mental? Take a deep breath and recognize how you live violence in your life. Take a deep breath and recognize, what is my biggest fear, my biggest panic in life? I take with my hands this fear and this violence, and I bring it to my genitals, making them into nutrients for the fire, for the seed of my life, of my creation. I bury them in me so they become a new me. I bury them so I nourish this new me, so I can use it to manifest the world within me in balance. I am the world. I am the balance of the world. I am the balance of the world. I know I am patience, and will, I am transformation. Take a deep breath, and with my hands from the genital, bring consciousness all over my body, caressing and stretching. Yawn, and each one at its own time, come back here and now. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And as always, see you tomorrow at the same time.